Hi, this is Catherine. This is Taking Tea with Catherine. And this is Tension Tamer tea from Celestial Seasonings. It's not my top favorite of all the herbal teas, but it's something I have been drinking for many years because I think it's good for you and doesn't taste bad, in my opinion. A little bit like something you clean with, but in a good way, I guess. But because I've been drinking this tea for decades, I consider it a classic. So I thought that would be appropriate because I was decided to put together a, what do they call it nowadays? Pile of possibilities. Some ideas of classics I'd like to read in 2024. Of course, I might choose other books as the moods grip me throughout the year because I am also a mood reader. Or I may, be part of a reading group that reads other classic books that I haven't even thought about yet. Freddie. Oh, my cat is a little nuts today. um, and I know you don't see him, but he's just zooming around. Anyway, he's excited about classics. What can I say? But I thought, okay, I'll pull a bunch of books that I would like to read in 2024, and hopefully I will hit some of these. And the criteria isn't so much that it'll be fiction or nonfiction. Oh, now he is stalking Janie and she's running. Okay, I will try not to get distracted. But I think mainly the books that I've picked are not books that I've read yet, so these are not rereads. There are going to be rereads probably next year, especially Jane Austen, let's face it. So no rereads that I in this pile. And no books that I haven't finished yet. So there are books that I've started, made great progress in, but just somehow didn't finish over the past few years. And some of them I'd like to pick up and read. Oh, there he goes. I know you probably can't hear him running, but it's distracting. Anyway, so not the books that I'd like to finish. These are books that I'd like to, maybe I've read a page or two, and maybe I've had them before in other TBRs or whatever as, oh yeah, I plan to read this, maybe this for October or whatever, but I never really cracked it. So here we go. I start with one of my favorite authors, which is Anthony Trollope. I have two books here from Anthony Trollope. That may not be everything because in 2023, which was not the best reading year for me in terms of numbers, I believe I finished 3 books of Anthony Trollope's and started another one. And so I think that at least having 2 books to start fresh will be possible. And I just want to keep reading more Anthony Trollope. And so one of them is a standalone, and one of them is part of a series, the famous Palliser series. I finished the Barsetshire series already, and I started the Palliser series probably in 2019 and just stopped with the first book, thought it was good, and then went back to Barsetshire. So now I'm back, and I want to continue with Phineas Finn. So this is book 2, and I don't know if it's probably the best one of the group. So I think that I've heard mixed things. I've heard some people say, oh, I didn't like this one as much, or it was okay, but not the best one. So that might have slowed me down in getting to this one, but I still want to read it really badly, actually. And so I know Trollope tends to have characters that are either in the church at some point in his books, but in this particular series, a lot more political ambitions. And that isn't incredibly interesting to me, but he does it well. So I think he can pull it off, and I know he can because he was highly successful in that. And I like the look of this book. This is one of my favorite of the types of, the editions. And I don't know, the colors, everything. I've had this for a while. So yeah, I really need to get started with that. And here's another one that I've had probably longer. I bought this in a New York Public Library book sale at a place that has stopped their book sales since 2009. So obviously I've had this a billion years. And I probably will pronounce the name wrong, even though I've heard it read out. Whatever. It's Ayala's Angel by Anthony Trollope. And I like this edition. It's another Oxford. Oxford seems to have done a lot of Trollope books. And it's a slightly small print, the font, which is getting to be difficult for me. And so I'm really trying to pick books in these smaller writing editions. And now my other cat is running around. Anyway, and because Well, again, while I can still read them, and I'm not saying that I can't, it's just that I need better lighting, and yeah, sometimes something to magnify with, and eventually I might have to do a lot more e-reading, but for now I want to read the books I have, so let's not go into that. I don't really know that much about that book and what it's about. Um, it's a standalone, I believe. Anthony Trollope does tend to keep his this expression we use now, his books in like the same universe. Like there are sometimes mentions in one standalone of a character that's in another book, and like a lawyer or somebody, or a or a vicar or somebody, and I think that's cool. I don't know how he kept track of all this, but I'm quite proud of him. But I kind of like the fact that there's no description, even though I think I've read at least one description at some point somewhere. But I like that in a way because I go in fresh. I don't get spoiled. And with Anthony Trollope, I've been trying not to get spoiled. I know I've already been spoiled about the Palliser series a little bit, so there's nothing I can do about it. My tension has been tamed. My cats are seeming to calm down right now. Okay, another writer that I read one book of last year, and so far I've read three of his books. Three, I think, of his books, and every single one of them I've quite enjoyed. And so I have two books here of his that I'm thinking about. I can't decide between which one yet, and so I don't plan to read both of them, but one of them, and it's Wilkie Collins. One of them is a little more well-known, at least I've heard of this book more often, and that is No Name. So I think this is someone who is illegitimate. I guess that's why they have no proper name. It says it's a wholly different order of suspense, so that's interesting. And I've heard good things about this book, so this might be it. But this is also kind of a suspense, I believe, and I think this also has one of these looking, for the identity of a parent or something along those lines. But it's a pocket classic. It does not fit in any pocket that I own, but this is Wilkie Collins' I Say No. I just like that title. I Say No. I don't know why. I really want to see why it's called I Say No, but I like the fact that both of the books that I'm trying to choose from say no in them. So I'm like, I hope they're not too negative, but it's kind of funny. I don't know. Anyway, so at least one Wilkie Collins. Last year, what was it? Actually, this year I read Man and Wife, and it was fantastic. So now I'm going to a number of other books, one each of different writers, some of whom I've read of their books before, of their oeuvre. Can never remember how to pronounce that word either. And some of which I've never read at all and just decided to buy the books. So I really want to read them. Obviously, any of these books I'm showing you are books that I own. So I really am, even though I have a billion library, I keep saying billion, but even though I have a lot of library books out, I really do want to read and finish a lot more of the books that I own because, well, who wouldn't? So focusing on these might be good. And okay, so Charles Dickens. I have had an on and off relationship with him for a good decade now. He was the one I was reading more of for years before I started getting into Anthony Trollope. And I'm not saying that I got out of reading or not interested in reading Charles Dickens because of Anthony Trollope. It's just that my focus changed and I preferred Anthony Trollope's writing over Charles Dickens most of the time. However, I would like to read the books of Charles Dickens that I own. And of course, there are one or two that I started and did not finish, which I will not mention here. This is a book that I've never started, but I've heard people that have similar reading taste to me say decent things about it. And again, it's a small book with slightly small print. Not terrible small print, but it's a small book, so I like that. And that is Barnaby Rudge. Look at this edition. Look at this. It's almost like this one, except this is a more of a hardcover, and this is more of a soft. I don't think it's real leather. No, it's definitely not. I don't think. Then again, what do I know? I am not always good at tactile things. It's another one though that I bought in that library sale. So, for like, I don't know, one thing says $5.50 and one says $2 on here, so I don't know which one I paid. It's been a very long time. someone wrote, it looks like union in there, but I love that. I like finding that kind of writing in these books. I don't always like writing in books, but I like sort of left behind possible names or clues to who had this before. But there are some illustrations by A.H. Buckland. So this is, well, I don't want to mess up this book. I think it's rather pretty, and it's very smooth to read. Very a little bit shiny, and but not annoyingly garishly shiny. So I don't know. I think I could like this. I don't know how many illustrations are in this book, but I don't need it to have a million. But I love when there's illustrations in Victorian novels. They're fascinating. Let's face it. So anyway, so that would be a lovely book to finally get to in 2024. It's hard to get around the fact that it's 2024, but I say that every year. Another book that I bought not too incredibly long ago. It's a bit of a beat up edition of this, one of my Virago modern classics. But just the mood that I'm in right now, this is a book that I would like to read. And this is Mrs. Humphrey Ward's Marcella. And first of all, I love the picture of a woman reading. I gotta do a pose like that one day. I probably could do something like that. I have the small books anyway. And look, there's a cat. And it's not running around like it's got a fire lit under it, like my cats are. But it looks a little bit like a cat I used to have named Moofer. Anyway, that has nothing to do with why I want to read the book, though. I just the very brief description says Marcella Boyce. I'm not going to read the whole thing. A pre-Raphaelite beauty of the 1880s is passionately in love with the ideals of socialism. So, a 21-year-old art student, she lives in a Kensington boarding house until her father inherits the family estate, Miller Park in the Midlands. So, I'm not going to get into everything it's about, but that just sounds up my alley. Not so much the political socialism bit or whatever. I don't know if it gets political or whatever, but the whole pre-Raphaelite idea. I know that's supposed to be a former one, but I just love when it's incorporated into literature. So I want to see how that is. I did a video in I guess October, because it was October, about pre-Raphaelites and Victorian literature. I don't know if this is Victorian or not, because she died in 1920, the writer. So it's either very late Victorian or early Edwardian. But I do want to read this. It's a discarded book from a library. It even has one of the old pockets. So that's kind of cool. And so it's, like I said, it's a little bit beat up, but I don't think it's written in that much. And I bought this in Chicago. So it would be nice to get to the books that I've purchased in Chicago. Even though I didn't buy that as long ago as, say, 2008, as some of these books are, but still. All right, another writer who I have loved so far. I believe all of her writing that I have read, but I don't think I read anything of hers in 2023. I did in 2022, but it's Elizabeth Gaskell, and there are other books of hers that I haven't read yet and I want to read. But this particular edition interests me because it is Cousin Phyllis and Other Stories. Now, if you've seen my record of reading shorter stories, novellas, things like that, it's not great. It's not my strong suit, but I also know that Elizabeth Gaskell wrote some good ones, and I want to get to them. So this is where I'm going to start, Cousin Phyllis and Other Stories. But one of the things, too, is because many years ago, I read Cranford. Really enjoyed it, and then watched the adaptation. And the adaptation had the characters from Cranford, and then they added other people, and I had no idea what was going on. So I looked it up, and they said, oh yeah, we incorporated some other stories of Elizabeth Gaskell's in there, just I guess to spread it out a little more, make more of a whatever it was, like I don't remember if it was like a series or whatever it was back in the day when it came out. And I thought that's fine that they did that, but I have no idea who these people are, so I would like to get behind that and read some more of her stories, and also just because I like Elizabeth Gaskell's writing. So that's another one. And this is a book that I did try to put into one of my Booktober TBRs a couple of years ago, and I read one of his books and liked it. So I'm hoping I like this book and hoping I get a chance at it next year. We shall see. This is George Gissing's new Grub Street. I believe it has to do with the journalist industry, newspapers, whatever, in England in Victorian times, and that is a bit up my alley, and hopefully it is something that I will like, but I just have to actually read it. I have, some of the editions of books that I have, for some reason, I don't seem to get to them very much. And even though I want to read them, it just hasn't been happening. One of them is the Virago, sometimes because the writing is a bit small, but not all of them are. And I have read some of it, but not as much as I would like. And also the Oxford World's Classics, the ones with the white, with the little red bits. I don't know why I am not reading as much of these as I would like. So I'd like to change that, and we shall see if that'll happen. Last but not least are two books in another edition that I love the look of and haven't been actually picking them up. So years ago, I got these Barnes & Noble classics. They're also called something else, like Pan Macmillan or Macmillan or something like that. Depending on where you get them, they came in a different color. You probably can't see it from here. I have them up there somewhere, but these are like the more of the light blue, robin's egg blue. I don't know if you want to call it that. And I have three books. One is about London, a combination of things, and maybe I'll read that another time. Who knows? But but these two books are like ish. I think one of them is definitely a memoir, and the other one is also possibly a memoir. So I need to read these, and I've been wanting to read these for a long time. And this one is Wonderful Adventures of Mrs. Seol in Many Lands by Mary Seol. And look how nice that edition is. I know I shouldn't just get into the aesthetic of a book, and just how pretty it looks or whatever, but it doesn't hurt, and it fits very well in my hands. My hands are not very big, so these kind of small books, I have quite a few small books this time around, really works for me. And the writing is a little small, but not terribly. Like I could do it. I could do this. So I should do this. And so that's where I want to, I don't want to read it just because it's small, but I also want to read these books. So that's one. I know she was involved in, I believe, the Crimean War and other things as I believe, a nurse. And was she a nurse? But I will find out, because at least she was assisting in the during this time period. I've heard a lot of good things about this book, and now it's been a couple of years since there was an episode of Doctor Who where she shows up, Mary Seol. So that would be kind of cool to actually finally read it. I planned to read it before that Doctor Who episode came out, but obviously that didn't work out. And now there's a entirely new doctor with, entirely different people that they're meeting. I don't want to go into that too much because that's not what I'm talking about today, but I did watch a preview of what the new doctor from Doctor Who, and the different time travel and different people that they're going to meet, and the Beatles are going to be in one episode. I was like, the Beatles, because I just really love the Beatles. But so that's cool. But so this is a little bit in the past, so let's get to it already, right? Anyway, I know my reasons are my reasons. They don't always make sense, but we all have our things. And this is something that I know there's a TV show based on this, and I know I've seen a little bit of it maybe. And it's My Family and Other Animals by Gerald Durrell. So this is this edition, and the description. Oh my goodness, the writing in this one. It's Gerald Durrell's. Is it Durrell or Durrell? See, I cannot pronounce names lately to save my life. Hilarious account of 5 years in his childhood spent living with his family on the island of Corfu, with snakes, scorpions, toads, owls, and geckos competing for space with one bookworm brother and I can't read this writing. And another who's gun mad. There it is. I can read the print, by the way. I just can't read this part over here. I don't know why. The light off of it is a little hard for me. Maybe you could read it better than I can. Yay. Anyway, everybody who's read these books so far that I've spoken to always said, oh, it's really funny. It's great writing. You have it. Why aren't you reading it? So, maybe I'll finally give in to the pressure and read it. So those are the classics that I would like to dive into in 2024. Please let me know if you've read any of these books, if any of them you believe should be a priority for me, if any of them you've read that were absolute disasters. Even if I really want to read them, I wouldn't mind, eliminating one or two of them if they were that bad. But either way, I am quite excited about 2024. I don't know if I'll do any more videos about books I plan to read next year. This is a focus I always try to, focus on, which is classics. So hopefully I will. And I hope to share more of my reading adventures and at some point soon. So until then, this is Catherine at Taking Tea with Catherine. Have a lovely tea and book-filled day and year.